Hey, what's up everybody? Jamie here from Sharonatsea. I know that April's behind us and we're looking forward to summertime cruising, but there were some pretty big news stories in April regarding some cruise lines, and I just thought we might revisit those real quick, see if there's any updates, and see what we can look forward to with those stories going forward. We'll see you back here right after this. Alright, so right out of the gate in the month of April, as a matter of fact on April 1st, in what a lot of people thought might have been a April Fool's joke, we found out that Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas, one of the biggest ships to sail on the seas, had a terrible accident at the Grand Bahamian shipyard when a tremendous crane crashed down on the aft starboard side of the ship when a dock collapsed, causing a huge amount of damage that couldn't just be fixed right there. As a matter of fact, the ship had to be taken to Europe, and Royal had to cancel the next 3 cruises while work and repair was being done on the ship. Now the good news is, coming up here on May 5th, Royal will begin setting sail with Oasis of the Seas on some Barcelona and Rome-based itineraries. So the good news is it looks like everything's better with Oasis of the Seas. She's going to be sailing again here the first week or so of May, and by November, Oasis of the Seas ought to be back in Miami, setting sail to Caribbean ports and making sure that all those folks that love Royal Caribbean are having an amazing time. Now the bad news for Royal, looks like they lost out on about $52 million worth of revenue in the month of April. Now luckily insurance pays for most of the repairs and things like that, or that really would have tapped into their reported profit statement. But right now it looks like everything's going well with regards to Oasis of the Seas, so if you're looking forward to a cruise with her, be glad, because you're going to be getting on her here soon. And for the folks that missed out on those couple weeks, the good news was, well, they did get fully reimbursed for what they paid. They did get a 100% cruise voucher for a future cruise from Royal. And a number of people did get some assistance in helping with airline change charges and things of that nature. So that's pretty cool too. So the bad news, you missed out on your cruise. The good news, you got your money back and you're going to get a free one for your trouble. So not a bad deal, and we're glad to see Royal Caribbean taking care of its people like that. So good job, Royal. Alright, so April started with some bad news for Royal. Then shortly after, a little bad news came out for Carnival Cruise Lines. Carnival Cruise Line got itself into some hot water when it was found out that they had been violating some probation agreements that were set up back from a 2017 $40 million settlement when Carnival Cruise Lines Corporation's cruise line Princess Cruises was found to be illegally dumping waste into the ocean. Now at the time that was a pretty big deal, and in addition to having to pay a $40 million settlement, Carnival was put on probation, and since then they've been having audits performed by third-party groups, and they've been monitored pretty closely. And recently a U.S. federal judge, Patricia Seitz, has called out Carnival Cruise Lines for not upholding their end of the deal. Apparently it's been found out that Carnival has been breaking a few more rules with regards to the agreement that they made in that settlement. So it looks like Carnival has still been misbehaving a little when it comes to taking care of the environment. They have been accused of dumping gray water into Glacier Bay, one of the most beautiful national park areas in Alaska. Now, if you recall, gray water is stuff like sink water, bath water. There can be some waste and some water that's removed from the hull that builds up, and in that water you could see some oil deposits and things like that. So it's just not a good thing to be doing there. In addition to that, they were also found to be preparing for audits in a way that they shouldn't be, to make sure that anything they're doing wrong gets covered up before they get audited. And there were a few other violations as well that they did admit to. Now, in addition to some major public shaming, Judge Patricia Seitz has been taking Carnival to task and will make a final ruling in June with regards to what kind of punishment Carnival could be facing, and she has even mentioned that she is considering blocking Carnival from utilizing U.S. ports going forward, or maybe for a particular time. Now that'd be a pretty monumental thing to try to make happen, but you never know, and it's certainly not giving Carnival any good publicity. Now we hope Carnival decides to get its act together and clean up any of these issues that they're having. I'm sure they're going to pay a hefty price, maybe with regards to dollars and cents, and probably with regards to folks turning away from the cruise line. I mean, when you mess with the environment, you're going to upset a lot of people. So come on, Carnival, do the right thing, and let's get these issues fixed up. Now we'll look forward to see what happens in June when this thing finally goes to court. And we'll definitely be reporting back at that time to see what exactly happens and what kind of punishment Carnival Corporation is facing. Now a little bit later in the month of April, folks that have cruises planned to Cuba got some bad news and definitely have a good reason to be concerned about whether or not their cruise is going to go off without a hitch or not. Turns out the Trump administration, and in particular National Security Advisor John Bolton, made an announcement talking about a lot of changes that are going to be happening with regards to the U.S. relationship with Cuba. The word that came down was that the U.S. is going to be reinstating the travel ban that had been into place for so many years prior to the Obama administration. Now, a number of new restrictions and regulations had been announced, and the biggest one was the restrictions going forward on U.S. travel to and from Cuba if you did not have a family member in Cuba. Now, at the time, they had announced that as early as the beginning of May, we could see travel to Cuba halted for U.S. citizens, at least with regards to leisure travel. Now, that's obviously bad news for the airlines and for the cruise lines. And speaking in particular for the cruise lines, we did have a number of people question whether the story was going to be legitimate and whether they would actually restrict or stop people from going to Cuba. Now, that does remain to be seen, but I can tell you that if you have a cruise lined up where you're going to be traveling to or making a stop in Cuba, you definitely want to keep an eye on this story, because we're not sure if and when the full restriction will take place. Like I said, they announced that it would, and one thing we've learned from this administration is when they say they're going to do something, they usually go through with it, whether it's a popular decision or not. And we sure hope things can change and folks can continue to travel to and from Cuba and have amazing cruises to that country. But right now, I think everything is still up in the air. So if you do have your plans to go see Cuba, make sure you keep in touch with your cruise line and keep an ear out for any potential changes in the itinerary. Now remember, they won't cancel the cruise, but they will definitely make a stop in a different place if travel to Cuba is ultimately banned. Now, these were some of the biggest news stories in the cruise industry for the month of April. Looking forward to May, there's already some stuff going on that we need to keep our eyes on. Number one, Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas has officially announced that it is having mechanical trouble and it is not able to run under full power. And it looks like they've made the decision, as opposed to putting the ship in right now for service, and probably due to the financial hit that they took with Oasis being out for a little while, they have decided to make itinerary adjustments so that the ship would not have to travel under full speed and full power to get back and forth to different ports. Numerous cruisers have announced that they are receiving letters already from Royal that are announcing itinerary changes, and we hope that doesn't affect too many people negatively. But I'd certainly be a little bit concerned going on a ship when I knew there were already mechanical issues. Now, for Sharon, Matthew, and myself, we have a cruise lined up on Symphony of the Seas, and we've already seen a few issues with regards to the Royal Caribbean Oasis class ships. We definitely have our fingers crossed that everything goes off without a hitch come the end of May. So there's a lot that's going to be going on coming up here in May with regards to the Trump administration, things going on with Cuba, and we're going to see what's happening with Royal and those Oasis class ships. See if they can get that thing all straightened out. And we'll keep you posted if we hear any big cruise news that will directly affect you and your upcoming cruises. We appreciate you stopping in. Thanks for watching the video. If you're into cruise vlogs, cruise news, cruise tips, anything cruising, we sure hope you consider subscribing to the channel. Click the notification bell so you're always alerted to new content. Make sure you check us out Monday nights on our Sharonatsea live stream. Starts at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, and who knows how long that thing will go for. Thanks a lot for watching, and from Sharon, Matthew, and myself here at Sharon at Sea, happy cruising.